Shown KCCA strives to build meaningful relationships with Indigenous communities and recognizes the importance of respecting treaties and lands. Find a group of plenary interests.
Do a roll call first. Todd Noble.
Present.
Lori Baldwin Sands. Here. Frank Burrs.
Here.
Jim Herbert.
Present.
Grant Jones.
Here.
Sharon McMillan. Present. Jerry Cribble.
Present.
JJ Strybosh.
Present.
Dan Trusteau.
Present.
And Johnny Wilson.
Here.
We have all 10 members present. Yes.
Okay, mover and seconder for the minutes from October 15th. Herbert, Lori. Any concerns?
Lori Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Frank Burrs.
Yes.
Jim Herbert.
Yes.
Grant Jones.
Yes.
Sharon McMillan.
Yes.
Jerry Cribble.
Yes.
JJ Strybosh.
Yes.
Sam Trusteau.
Yes.
John Wilson.
Yes.
And Todd Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Okay. Media report, Betsy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, just a couple highlights of social media from the past month. The first is the recipient of the Elgin Kettle Creek Agricultural Conservation Scholarship that was awarded. The next is a feature we did on the different features that you would find in Kettle Creek, focusing on recreational fuels and runs. There was a photo in the Elmer Express that highlighted the Central Lake Erie Coastal Tour that was held earlier this fall. And then just a few articles that were published with the proposed changes to the Conservation Authorities Act.
Any questions? Betsy? Project tracking.
A busy fall season, staff have been winding down the campgrounds, including accepting seasonal camper payments and distribution of hydro deposits. Benthic sampling has taken place, and at the same time, we're starting our snow surveys, which the snow came early this year. Site visits for wetland creation projects, and we've done a number of education programs down at Dan Patterson. We're doing tree survival assessments, and we completed some annual maintenance at the Kettle Creek Dog Park. And I'm pleased to say that all our field staff attended conservation areas workshop in Orillia. It's a great opportunity for them to mingle with some of the other CAs from across the province and share stories and resources. That was a great opportunity for them this year.
Any questions, Jim?
Through the chair, just your first statement, ongoing collection, are you collecting for next year or is this people who are in arrears for this year?
No one's in arrears for this year. This is collecting payments for next year.
For next year. Good.
Oh, sorry, Lori.
Thank you. I have a couple. The first one, if I could, with Jim, with the seasonal camper payments. The addition of the new campsites that we have at Dalewood have been requested, and I'll tell you why. I was at the dog park and there were a group of people all talking about the new additions at Dalewood, and one gentleman said, "Oh, I better get my application in as soon as possible." There is a lot of buzz around those new campsites, so that would be my first one. Has there been any buddy who's been really looking forward to having some of those new sites available to them at Dalewood?
I think through the chair, I can say that we know that there's long-term campers that are interested in the sites, and that once we have the sites prepped and ready, then we'll consider how we're going to dole those out.
So thank you, because it was long-term campers are looking forward to moving their site. Second one is about the Phragmites. When we talked about it before, I had said about communicating it out because some of our neighboring municipalities don't know about the Phragmites that we do here, and ensuring that is communicated out on an ongoing basis. And I appreciate that everybody went to the conservation workshop in Aurelia. Are we going to next month get a report on the Lanternal conference? Did anyone attend?
Through chair to Lori, no one attended.
Thank you.
Yeah, through you to Elizabeth. So we talked about this Phragmites stuff when the county came in and pitched us. It's everywhere in the ditches, so hopefully there's somebody here. How do we treat Phragmites? Is it just herbicide? Grant, you got a comment to add on? Or you just wait?
I absolutely do.
Oh, okay.
Through the chair to Frank, Elgin County took on Phragmites about 5 years ago on all county roads, and in municipalities, lower tier municipalities that wanted to tag along. I think at this point, Phragmites on Elgin County and municipal properties is all but gone. We do spot checks every year for any that come back, but it's Roundup for the most part, except.
Okay, so it's Roundup, and then when you pulling the dead stuff out, or no?
No,
Just Roundup and that's it?
they mow it, they spray it, and they come back the next year, any that pop up, and you're pretty much Phragmite free on municipal property.
So mow, spray Roundup. Roundup disappears right now, doesn't it disappear? It doesn't stay in the environment?
Correct.
Okay, that's good. They didn't say that to us, Middlesex. That's pretty positive for Elgin.
Yeah.
So we should pitch, if we have a county councilor here from Middlesex, we should pitch and say, why don't you guys bring all the municipalities in and do that? Because we have it too. We don't have a program. Okay, that answers that.
Wasn't that expensive. It's not cheap, but it's not, when you consider that we don't have any more complaints about landowners not being able to see when they pull out their drive because of Phragmites in the ditch on each side of the driveway. And we have a program now where we can go into the property owners where it's gone across the fence or it's on the other side of the fence, and them as well to control it.
Gotcha. So you offered that to the member municipalities to hop on? And would you do it for them if they paid?
Same contract.
All right. Sounds good for me. Like, this is invasive. It's everywhere. Ditches of God. Okay, thank you. Question answered.
Lori?
Thank you. Well, I would like to ask Betsy, because we've been doing it in the city of St. Thomas as a partnership with KCCA around Lake Margaret. Could you talk and inform members of the committee about that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't as involved. He was involved with the St. Thomas Committee, but it was a similar process to Elgin County where they worked. Lake Margaret was sort of the start of it all, where there was a lot of flag around Lake Margaret, and concerns from citizens. So once again, it's a sort of municipally driven, I guess, to tackle Phragmites across St. Thomas. And then on KCCA lands, once again, we've also been tackling, Dalewood had a large patch in the reservoir, Lake Whitaker. So we have on our own properties been and trying to eradicate it, and same methods as Grant spoke to.
And you want to eradicate it if I could, because it chokes out everything else, doesn't it? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Oh,
Sorry, through the chair, do bulrushes come because they've been replaced by the Phragmites? So if given a chance, will they regenerate?
Yes, for sure. So if you go to Lake Whitaker on the Dayu side, there used to be an extensive patch of Phragmites there, which was solely Phragmites. And now when you go back, you can see the native species.
Good.
Oh, John?
Where the Phragmites come from? Just decorative garden?
Yeah, I think it was an ornamental that came from overseas. Yeah.
On the watershed conditions, Jennifer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lake Erie water levels are definitely low. They're right at the long-term average right now for the period of record, which is like over 100 years. So it's right now it's almost a meter lower than the 1986 record high for November, which is pretty crazy. But it is a seasonal and a long trending up and down over the years. So it's just, we're at one of those low points right now. October, we had about 61% of our average total rainfall for an average October, which works out to be about 45 millimeters. And the outlook for the next 3 months is about near normal temperatures and precipitation for the region. There are several CAs in Southern Ontario that are continue to report low water conditions. Kettle Creek is currently in a level 1. And just a couple of extra things. Our seasonal snow survey started on November 14th. And that'll go bi-monthly until May. Yeah, it's pretty easy process. And the data is used for flood forecasting in the morning. And that's it.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, just the levels, you're talking, what does level 1, 2, 3 mean?
So level 1 is when water levels and precipitation fall below 70% long-term averages.
Okay.
So then there's a voluntary 10% reduction in non-essential water use. So that means you're not watering your lawns or cleaning your cars outside, trying to use your water more effectively. A level 2 is when water levels drop below 50% long-term average. And level 3 is when it's water level drop below 30%.
Okay, gotcha. So 1 is the worst.
1 is the first indication of a long-term low water problem. Level 2 is when you increase your voluntary reduction of non-essential water use to 20%. And then level 3 is when you really have to start making those choices as how you're going to conserve water.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Through the chair, Jennifer, in the middle of that report, just after level 1, 2, 3, it talks about flows are still lower than normal. Who decides what normal is? Is normal something that's based over a 50-year period, averaged out? Is that, I assume that's the way it works, but just clarify.
Mr. Chair, to Jim, yes, definitely. It's a long-term period of record data that they use to determine those normal levels. So once they have that, then they can compare it back and forth.
Thank you.
I really enjoy reading these reports and I thank Jennifer very much for them. I've said that in the past, but one of the things that I've noticed greatly on social media is how much people that are along the watershed are posting how low the water levels are. So they're saying that one that stuck out was there is a family of deer that has a beach that they can now play on. There is people that are walking along Lake Erie shoreline and talking about how they've never been able to walk out that far. So it really is impactful to see that the low water levels are there, but then see the social piece on social media of how people are responding to it. That they look at the good of the how it's affecting the wildlife, but they also say, wow, the water levels are so low, we can pretty much walk along the old Kettle Creek bed for long distances. So it's been very interesting to see how those two connect with each other.
Thanks, do you guys have something? Okay. Do we media posts that kind of speak to the water levels and if people should be nervous and worried and?
Mr. Chair, we did release a media release in September when we declared the level 1 low water condition, and that included some of those voluntary options that you can do for helping to reduce that non-essential water use. Yeah, I did.
All right, and I guess I have a question. Did we use the farmers all the time and kind of the Bible? Everyone's always asking the last year, using the Bible last year for the farmers almanac, so I didn't know if that
I
was.
just look at it occasionally, but I also, I get a lot of information and data sent from all of the, the weather network, like weather sources that I use. And then we also have a really good surface water monitoring center with the MNR and our partnership with them, and they provide a lot of data as well. So we have like daily information.
I figured so, but I just thought it's kind of funny to see stuff that's been around for so many years that's no
Climate
longer.
change is
Uh,
nothing. It doesn't matter.
Recommendation that the staff report be.
Because climate change.
Lori? Right.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Burrs,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McMillan. Yes. Cribble,
Yes.
Drybosh,
Drive on. Oh, you put his hand up.
Yes.
and
There you go.
Trudeau,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
and Noble.
Yes.
And that motion
I was
passes.
gonna suggest, don't you think you should have rubber boots on with a measuring stick
Right.
as a photo on it?
Well, it's usually just me, so.
All right, gotcha.
Think with that, and it's not your fault.
Gotta blame somebody, Jim.
You're just reporting, yes.
Come out like next time and take a photo.
New business, under new business, the provincial announcement, I'll do Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to spend, I know we have a pretty dense agenda this morning, but this is a really important topic. And I want to take a bit of time to walk you through everything that's happened today, because things are moving fast. And this is probably the biggest thing that's happened to CA since we were formed. So we really need to spend some time and attention to it and really understand it before we decide on how we want to move forward. So the latest provincial announcement really began in June when we heard about the Chief Conservation Executive Officer being created. And at that time, we didn't have much information other than to say that that role was going to lead and create consistency across the province in CAs and speed up critical infrastructure. Then on October 31st, we received a provincial announcement that they were going to create a new provincial board governed agency and consolidate the 36 CAs into regional CAs. As most board members know, the CAs really didn't have any indication that that was happening until that morning. On November 6th, the bill was introduced, a Schedule 3 was introduced in the Bill 68, Plan to Protect Ontario, which was the budget measures. And that schedule really outlines the changes that will be undertaken to the Conservation Authorities Act to create this provincial agency. That bill is now working through readings in the House, and I would expect it will pass at any time. The second component is the ERO posting that's now live on the registry, and that is to consolidate 36 CAs into 7 regional CAs, and that comment period is open until December 22nd. What we do know about the implementation timeline is that there's more legislative and regulatory changes that are expected. Those will be released probably sometime this spring. But the new governance model in terms of the consolidation of the CAs will occur after the municipal elections in 2026. We're not talking about full implementation until 2027. Why? Why is this coming about now? Well, the province, I think, is sticking to some key talking points in terms of why they're considering this consolidation and the provincial agency. And you can see the first paragraph of the ER posting, I think, gets to the heart of the province's goals. From their perspective, there's 36 conservation authorities in the province that they're fragmented and following different policies and standards, and that this has led to an unpredictable and inconsistent turnaround time for approvals, leading to delays and frustrations for farmers, landowners, and builders. You can see in a social post that they're putting out that they expect that this consolidation, as well as the provincial agency, will lead to enhanced services for the regions and create consistency and efficiencies while strengthening the economy. They hope to do this again by introducing an Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency and consolidating the 36 CAs into 7 regional CAs. And I want to spend some time just explaining what we know about those 2 initiatives. Again, from the province, they're really pitching this as a win-win situation. So what these changes will mean, from their perspective, is that it will redirect resources from duplicative administration to the front lines, offering more services. They believe it will improve flood management and erosion prevention, create strong environmental protections and faster, more efficient service delivery and approval processes. They stress that there's a number of things that are not changing. The first thing they say is the governance model is not changing. We'll have regional CAs that still have a board of directors directing that CA and undertaking those programs and services. It won't change where CAs operate. So all the area in Ontario that's currently served by a CA will continue to be served by a CA. They outline that the programs and services of the CAs will remain unchanged, so our focus will be the same on source protection, natural hazard, water management, and that there's the land and the recreational facilities that we have will still be in CA ownership and will continue to receive funding from the same avenues that we currently do. It'll just be a regional CA budget. In terms of the OPCA, if I can shorten it for everyone, the objectives are pretty overarching. So they're going to oversee the consolidation of the CAs into the 7 regions. They'll provide CAs, they'll oversee our governance and operations, promote consistency, evaluate our financial performance, and even get into guiding and evaluating our strategic planning. But also providing support services. So standardizing and centralizing our permitting system and lead development of digital strategies and shared services. I think what's important to look at in this slide, when you look at those, it's very far reaching in terms of the guidance and oversight this agency is going to provide to that regional CA structure. But what also is, well, there's no distinction between what we've come to know today as mandatory programs and services and non-mandatory programs and services. So it's not like this provincial agency is just going to oversight those natural hazards perspectives. They're overseeing all aspects of those regional CAs. In terms of the governance, they'll be composed of 5 to 12 members. And what we know today is that they will be appointed by the LGIC, and they will need experience in public administration and CA programming and cannot be a member of parliament. It does state that there may be further requirements outlined in regulation, but I think what's noticeably missing is that there's no requirement for municipal representation there. They will serve up to 3 years to a maximum of 9 and meet a minimum of 4 times per year. Again, I think it's important to note that this agency can issue directions to the CAs in terms of performance indicators, service standards, procurement, training of members. So again, really getting into the nitty-gritty of the services that the CAs can offer. However, all direction must first be approved by the minister. In terms of staffing, there will be a CAO and a full staff. The first CAO will be appointed by the Secretary of Cabinet, but ongoing, the CAO will be serving at the discretion of that board, and staff will serve at the discretion of that board. Funding will be provided initially from the ministry, but then the regulation also sets up that this agency can charge fees and can apportion costs to the regional CAs. In terms of ministerial oversight, I think it's interesting that the minister will provide the agency with a letter of direction every year, and then the agency will have to report on their effectiveness every 3. Including value for money, and the minister can issue mandatory directives to the agency as well. In terms of the directions that the agency can provide the CAs, they can do that, but they also have to provide the minister a copy of any direction for 45 days prior to issuing it to the CA. So that's the agency, what we know of the agency today. I think it's important to note that the ERO posting is not looking for comments on the agency. That appears to be going ahead without consultation. What is open for consultation and feedback is the consolidation of the CAs into the 7 regions. So how are CAs currently configured? There's 36 across the province. They were brought about on a meaningful scale on watershed basis because we've always believed that, and it's been proven that that's the meaningful scale for planning and promoting efficient and sustainable uses of water resources. Consequently, these CAs cross a variety of municipal boundaries because that's not how they were originally organized. What the province is proposing in the regions that they've come up with, they looked at a number of different parameters. One was they wanted regional CAs. They wanted to reduce the overlap of administrative duties between the CAs. And they looked at creating these with a balance of expertise across these CAs and providing service continuity. So basically, from their perspective, they're spreading out the resources from what they believe are have and have not CAs. What it's created is 7 very large regional CAs, and locally we are grouped into the Lake Erie Regional Conservation Authority. You can see from the screen that encompasses a geographical range from Windsor, including London, all the way up for Brantford, and then further north, encompassing all of the Grand River Conservation Authority. So this new region is looking at 8 conservation authorities and 81 member municipalities in this large region. Again, from the provincial perspective, they're looking at lessening what they consider as a duplication of administrative effort over these. So when they did their analysis, they are saying that the current state, there's 36 CAs, and I think there's 317 or 319 member municipalities within those CAs. They're saying 50% of those municipalities share 2 or more CAs, and that's the overlap that they're talking about. And then you can see how they're proposing now that, so I think it's Middlesex Centre, where it has 5 CAs. You're the one in the province. In this new proposal, there would be no CAs having 5.
Thank God.
No municipalities having 5 CAs. So the ministry believes over 50% of municipalities share 2 or more CAs. I think conversely, you can look at the same chart and say 83% of municipalities share 2 or fewer CAs. Mm-hmm. What's existing in terms of the framework that we're operating on today is, again, there's that 319 member municipalities, and they're feeding in to 36 CAs, and that you have representation based on population on those 36 CAs. There's a 2-way dialogue, I believe, between the ministries and those CAs. So direction comes from the ministry, but we're also reporting up to the ministry on our programs and services. Today, we have what's called Conservation Ontario, and that body is basically a body that's made up of, as you know, 2 representatives from this board, usually the GM and the chair, sit on the Conservation Ontario Council. And that organization really works to coordinate insurance and benefits amongst the CAs. It coordinates funding grants, policy templates for consistency, promotes shared services, and does do provincial reporting and advocacy. But often MNR and MECP are already using Conservation Ontario as a conduit to us to help with that consistency, and vice versa. Oh, shoot.
Oops.
Going backwards here. What's proposed, and again, I don't have all the answers, this is my best framework of how I think it would be organized in the future. But you can see now that we have seven regional CAs. And most of them, except for Toronto, have multiple CAs existing within them now. We are the highest with 8 CAs feeding into Lake Erie region with 81 member municipalities. You have Huron with 7 and 78 municipalities. Eastern Ontario, 7 CAs with 48 municipalities. And then you have the OPCA staff. So that agency has a board and then it has a staff. You have the chief conservation officer and then the ministry at the top. So I would say more levels of bureaucracy through there.
Can I ask you a question here? Does Conservation Authority or Ontario get disbanded, or are they sucked into the?
We don't have those answers.
All right.
In terms of funding or just how this works, then the OPCA provides oversight over CAs, including municipally funded programs and services. The OPCA can apportion costs to those regional CAs, and the municipalities have no guaranteed representation on that OPCA. And it's unclear how the representation will be established on the regional CAs for those member municipalities. So really, when you look at it, the municipalities have less control over their local CAs and their local programs and services. So right now we have the ARO posting on the boundaries, looking at comments being put in for December 22nd. The province did hold municipal and CA information sessions yesterday. And Sharon and I were able to attend that. At that meeting, they did say that they are proposing to have regional roundtables with CAs and municipalities. They're planned, but they haven't been announced yet. And we would hope that they'll be occur before the ERO posting closes, but we're not sure yet. The ERO posting, I think, on the boundaries asks a number of questions on how they can make this consolidation work. So what do you see as key factors on successful transition for this consolidation? What opportunities or benefits may come from it? Do you have suggestions on how the governance will work? So this posting is not about whether or not municipalities or CAs want consolidation or need consolidation. It is very much how can we make the consolidation work. So I think that's an important distinction as well. If I may, just from we have lots of questions and we're still getting information coming in. The session that we had yesterday with the province, there was a few more details that came out through that. I think it's important that Hassan, the Chief Conservation Officer, mentioned a number of times that this is a vision. There's much left to be determined through consultation. So when questions are asked about how will representation of the member municipalities be formulated on these new regional CAs, they don't know. They're looking for feedback on that. How will apportionment of costs of the agency come to the regional CAs? They don't know. That hasn't been worked out yet.
Maybe they'll upload it from the municipalities.
They did mention yesterday, again, there was a lot of questions about, well, how does this happen? It's such a large region. The response back was that there's templates exist for this type of consolidation. And they mentioned the health unit consolidation as an example or a template for it. When we asked about different aspects of it, the answer was again that there's expert guidance and access to consultants that will be provided through the OPCA to help these regional boards and to help the regional consolidation. They did say that all local assets would become assets of the new regional CA. So any property that Kettle owns now would now be a regional asset. Thought it was interesting that it was mentioned, the province is not dictating this. The regional conservation authority boards will be in control of the transition timeline and the structure of the regional CAs as well. And the directives to CAs will commence as soon as the agency is established to ensure a smooth transition. And the agency will establish standards and key performance initiatives, and those will be tied to provincial funding. So though that is what we know, now I want to switch to taking you through a preliminary analysis that staff has been undertaking on the proposals. Again, not only to get you thinking about what our comment might be as a board, but also what your comments might be as municipalities. Because municipalities has as much to lose from this as the local CA boards. You know that the conservation authorities were enacted in 1946, and again, going back to that local watershed perspective. So Kettle, all the land that drains into Kettle Creek forms that watershed. But I would argue that watersheds are much about the land base as they are about the community connections that are formed within that area. I think we've been doing a number of things over the last 5 years to improve standardization and modernization and increase municipal control of our budgets and programs and services. So you've all been here for this. We've had the Ontario Regulation 686 in 2021 that required us to categorize our programs into mandatory and category 2 and category 3 to give municipalities more control over what they're funding. Then we went through a new budget process. The minister has given us a fee policy outlining what fees we can charge and when. And then just as recently as last year, the province introduced one regulation for all CAs, introduced exemptions now that don't require a Section 28 permit, and really push modernization in terms of our mapping requirements. So there's a number of things that we've been doing, and the province has outlined for us that we've implemented to improve our programs and services and modernization. I wanted to highlight just again, speaking to the provincial concern of that we're a patchwork organizations with different service deliveries and different standards, leading to unpredictable permitting. In 2024, KCCA issued 100% of its permits within provincially mandated timelines. The average permit, once the application is complete, goes out the door within 10 days. Our policies are built on provincial templates, but they're modified for unique local conditions, such as the 2-zone concept down in Port Stanley. The future state, if we're really looking to modernize or improve service delivery, each CA regulates to a different flood standard. So the province could provide guidance on, everyone working from the STEAM standard. This would provide consistency across the province. The province has been working on technical guides for a number of years. Those haven't been released yet. Those are the types of guidance that our planning and regulation staff need to, again, build consistency across the province. From a provincial perspective, 96% of permits issued within the province from CAs were issued within the timelines. So I think the CAs across the province are proving that they're meeting those timelines, and in some cases exceeding those timelines and being effective. The other provincial concern is a lack of resources that's led to discrepancy. It's true, KCCA has made things work by being innovative. So we rely on open source software for flood forecasting and mapping initiatives. And that is comparable to more expensive solutions that larger CAs are using. We found efficiency in bulk purchasing. And we share resources with neighboring CAs where possible. We outsource when expertise is required. And I think it is important to note that certain technological advancements, even if we regionalized, might not be capable of doing that because we lack consistent internet and high-speed connectivity in some areas. E-permitting, I haven't looked at it this CA, we've looked at it before, but it's not cost efficient based on our current service levels. Moving forward, developing a standardized and centralized system for processing Section 28 permits may be beneficial. But local offices are still required for timely access for our local residents and to give that face-to-face communication to landowners as they come in and seek advice. The other provincial concern is the municipalities are forced to fund duplicate corporate functions. So again, going back to that stat that the province is saying 50% or more have multiple CAs within their jurisdiction. I counter with, well, then 83% of municipalities have 2 or less CAs. The CA staff here especially, and I know at other CAs, we play multiple roles to keep costs low. And the boards are responsive for hearing and administrative reviews to help facilitate timelines for developers. So being small and local, we know what's happening on the landscape and we can adjust our board meetings and hearings as required. In a future state, Lake Erie Region would have 81 municipalities, resulting in increased administrative costs to even assure local municipalities share the same connection. It would require consolidation, that would be very expensive to consolidate IT and HR migrations and even the governance structure. By the time it took us to figure all of that out effectively, we're actually taking resources from the front line to figure out the consolidation. The provincial concern is that there's a lack of transparent asset management and inconsistent performance measures for reporting. All CAs are required to develop asset management plans as December 31st. The province only provides about $5 million to undertake key water infrastructure as that infrastructure continues to age. And we've provided all requested performance monitoring and reporting and communications. It's all available online as requested by the province. And we're happy to provide any and all monitoring and reporting to funding partners and to the province moving forward. So in an initial analysis, it would appear that the majority of the provincial concerns can be addressed without consolidating into 7 regions. And we're willing to work with the OPCA and the ministry to implement that. I would hazard that most consolidations would take on average of 10 years to effectively facilitate having regard for governance, finance, transparency, and staffing. And standardized policies, technical guides, and e-permitting services can be implemented cost effectively without changing the CA framework, without regionalizing. Moving forward, though, I think we have to be very calculated in how we respond back to the province. Again, the ER posting isn't about whether we agree the consolidation. It's very much how do we make the consolidation work. And I want to focus first on governance. In any type of consolidation moving forward, it needs to be controlled locally. Our member municipalities fund 30% of the CA programs and services. The province hasn't mentioned any more money or funds coming in as a part of this consolidation. So the municipalities very much, we're creatures of more. We formed because member municipalities got together and said we want them on the landscape. The government model needs to reflect the significant contributions that municipalities put to our programs and services. But more especially, we really need to look at that urban versus rural nature. In a consolidation, I worry that the rural landscape gets lost in that bigger urban perspective. And 81 member municipalities vying for a voice on one regional board does not provide enough local autonomy to ensure our decisions and our assets are still protected and our local interests are still protected. So again, these comments are up for debate. We have more time to talk about them, but I just wanted to focus discussions a little bit this morning. Obviously preferred would be that we work with the OPC to provide provincial leadership on standardization and e-permitting, and we leave the current CA structure as is. With certain provincial financial incentives, maybe it makes sense for some CAs to consolidate, but that would be done with municipal control, with municipal input to make sure that the local perspective is maintained. If we have to go to a regional perspective, the governance of the proposed regions needs to be carefully evaluated to make sure that it's fair and it compares to the current insight and input that you have to your existing CAs. It might involve local advisory boards or district staffing hubs are recommended. Regionalization, I think, may have unintended consequences of creating more bureaucracy, less efficiency, and costing more money, and ultimately will take control from the local stakeholders. Analysis on finances, again, honing in on municipalities currently fund over 30% of our programs and services. And we leverage these funds to generate, 50% of our revenues. A regional cost sharing model, again, the inequalities that may come from an urban and rural perspective, with increased oversight by the province through this OPCA, there is some concern that with more provincial control, the CA becomes less local and therefore less able to convince landowner stakeholders or other funding partners that we're not a provincial agency. And that would harm our ability to effectively get and leverage funding. It will definitely erode local partnerships, that local community feeling. And I want it to be very clear if regionalization happened, that the funds generated locally from our campgrounds would stay locally to our area. That would have to be maintained in any type of regional governance. In terms of our hazard programming, so our mandatory programs and services, again, we're meeting or exceeding provincial timelines, and we're heavily subsidizing those hazard programs through either municipal levy or our self-generated funds. And so in principle, we might agree to streamlining approvals or e-permitting services, but the consolidations of CAs would actually slow down the progress that we've been making so far on that by tying us up in conversations about fair representation and consolidation concerns. And again, respectfully, I think within the current framework, there's nothing preventing us from getting provincial technical guides out there, doing consistent flood standards, looking at making sure rural CAs have high-speed access, but we need adequate funding to implement that. And finally, on our category 2 and 3 programs and services, so these are things like tree planting, our campgrounds, our trails. We just negotiated agreements with our member municipalities for those types of programs and services, and that underlines that they are needed and required. Municipalities want them, but that varies across this region as to what's valued by the different municipalities. We onboard about 37 seasonal staff locally here. We're an important organization on this local landscape. We need to build relationships and maintain that face-to-face communication going forward. So we need local offices, local staff for boots on the ground, and to ensure that the services and the assets that we have here locally continue to be local. So at the yesterday's session, the province asked us again, amongst all the other questions that are out on the ERO posting right now. I think the main question they're asking us is what can't be lost in the proposed consolidations. And I would put forward that we need local offices and staffing. We need local decisions through local representation. We need to continue all programs and services that are currently being offered to our residents in our watershed. And we need a governance model that allows all that to happen, that doesn't change the grassroots, boots on the ground nature that CAs were built on. So what can't change in any proposed consolidation? Local matters. We need local watershed management decisions in the hands of local decision makers, and that means you as member municipality. So I've talked a bunch. I'm certainly open to questions that I can answer, and maybe we'll start there, but I do have, I can present as well on possible next steps that we need to consider this morning, but I can open it up for questions. Yeah.
Sam has his hand up.
You want to start it off, Sam?
Yes, thank you very much. For now, I'm going to try to restrain myself a little bit and not go to the merits of this. I could do that, but I don't think that's helpful at this point. My first question is, what are the other agencies, the other conservation authorities in our proposed sector doing? I think it would be very effective if, as much as possible, we could have the seven or eight agencies send in a very, very similar set of I don't know, objections, concerns, suggestions. I don't know what the right word is right now. But I heard that Essex has already sent something in. I don't have the language in front of me, but could you just give us a quick report on what other agencies have done, if anything?
Yes, through the chair to Sam. So ever since this announcement came out, the 8 EAs in the Lake Erie region, the GMs, have been meeting pretty much every other day to take in the announcements and talk amongst ourselves about directions forward. Essex region it was the first one, I think, to have a board meeting and have come out with a motion. The motion basically was that they don't agree with the consolidation at this level and are advocating for more wholesome consultation and possible looking at reducing the geography of the consolidation.
Yes. Would you, if you could circulate that to us, it would be helpful. And I guess I'm going to I'm not going to talk anymore. I want to hear what other people think, but I'm absolutely outraged about this. Yet again, the province is trying to strip local entities of really important autonomy. There's a reason why we're doing this based on watersheds and not based on administrative units. But I would like to see the Essex matter in front of us, and any further guidance you can give us on how we can meaningfully collaborate with the other agencies would be appreciated. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, so the question that I had coming into this, and much of it has been answered, is what would we do if do we want to lodge as individuals? You can go into the environmental registry and make comments. I don't know if they'll listen. This has come about without any consultation. They've decided this already. It's been passed into legislation. And the only thing they're looking for is how do they, our input as to how to make what they've suggested work, correct? So I guess that's a problem, but I like what Sam says. Maybe in our region, we get together and put out one blanket statement that here's how is that possible, do you think, Elizabeth? That, what is it, 8 conservation authorities or in the eastern region? The other thing that you mentioned, and I agree with it, is you'll start losing local funding. because people say, I'm not gonna donate, this is just gonna go to the big centers and there's gonna be a power shift and funding shift. Would you agree to the bigger centers? And the smaller places will lose whatever impact they have on their watershed. People won't donate money, I don't think. I don't know what control municipalities have now over conservation authorities. But yeah, so I will take back that we're the only municipality that is touched by five conservation authorities. I don't know what else to say. I just think this is another top-down. And why they decided to do it now versus everything else that's going on out there, why did they need to touch this? And I think you brought it up, Grant, so Flack said maybe there were a number of conservation authorities that weren't managed properly or something, but so why don't they fix those? If there's a handful, like 2 or 3, audit them or help them out, versus all of us get dragged into this. Don't have anything, I'll stop there if anybody else wants to comment, but I wonder, is it better regionally to go in with what we think versus individually? And I've been on the environmental registry in the past, certain issues that I never got the impression it meant anything I said there. And this is way down the pipe already. They don't want to hear about this not working. They just want to hear, how do we make it work? Okay, thank you.
At Lori next.
I don't think I was next. I think Grant was next, and JJ has his hand up as well, so
Okay.
I'll defer the floor to them and then.
Grant?
So I guess my question is to Frank first, the chair. Has it been onerous for your municipality to cover fire? So you have.
No, because we have a 7-person council. And so all the councilors sit on one of them, okay? And I have not heard anything negative. Like, when I sit on the Kettle Creek board, we're touched very little by Kettle Creek as Middlesex Center, obviously. So whatever Kettle Creek charges us is nominal compared to some of the others like St. Thomas and the City of London. So no, it's not ominous at all. I think there's many similarities across the conservation authorities. They're all managed differently and they have different projects, but no.
So that's a concern that this is, we have the man that sits on the municipality that has 5, and it's not an issue for that municipality. So where did this come from? I know the City of London, no disrespect to the City of London or our reps, but when we first, after the election, we had a very long drought without any representation from the city because they're busy, and this is low fruit, or not low fruit, but low on the totem pole as far as their other important boards and committees that they have. I'm not sure if it's driven more from the big cities that don't want to be part of it, possibly, but I hope that's not the case. I think when we do make comment, and I do agree that this is way too big. This area is just way too big for proper management. But we need to say we don't like it, but we also need to have a solution. Don't comment, we don't like it, without having something to offer the province as for the thought. And I don't know if the 8 authorities can come up with what a better area, a smaller area, two areas, whatever that might be, but we need to have something put back to them to think about this.
Just to speak to that, Grant, like when we think about the representation on the board and like London's busy, so them getting, but this new model doesn't put an elected person on the board. So that changes that whole program altogether. Which my thought process on that is takes away from the residents. Like they don't have an elected person where they can go to, or even a municipality. It takes that whole process away. So it doesn't even solve that problem. It actually just makes it worse. And then when they compare it to the health unit comparison, like the board of the health unit is built up with council, right? But on the money side, like you have the council on the board, but the money side is not, we found out at Elgin County. That doesn't come into the council to be approved. Like when we decide on the budget here for KCCA, it goes to council approves that. Like it actually votes on it, approves it, whereas the health unit, here's your bill. And we found out a couple of years ago, if they need a little bit more money, oh, here's your second bill. So like I kind of worry a little bit about that process as well. Just to speak to that, I'll shoot it over to JJ because he had his hand up.
I guess, like, this is a bit overwhelming, I think, for all of us, but you know, the idea to me that, oh, it's a problem that some municipalities, I mean, the municipal lines are not defined by watershed. So you are always going to have some municipalities that are going to be, you know, split. Even under this new scenario, they must have some municipalities that are split on 2 or 3 new conservation authorities. But most concerning to me is what happens. The question was, oh, well, maybe perhaps attention will go to the bigger centers. But the way the structure is proposed is, I think that attention will go to wherever the government perceives their voting base is. And this is the second conservation authority that I've been on the board with, and I've been impressed how non-political the experiences are. The municipalities care about their communities, but under this structure, municipalities will have very little power because they will just be one of, and they seem not to be even involved, engaged or involved. So that's concerning. I don't know what we can suggest. I wonder if we don't suggest something that's kind of, you know, that things like, okay, the cabins that we're renting out, this kind of minutia in a giant authority, you just cannot give attention. So perhaps we need smaller sub authorities within the authority, which of course only adds another layer. But how do we deal with all these? Like, we need a way, propose something about how we deal with all this minutia that couldn't come up to a board level in a big authority. Okay, anyway, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori?
I had several notes and read this several times and have multiple comments to make. I am concerned about how this is going to work for developers. I do want to talk about the level of public engagement, that there have been 2 readings at provincial level with only 3 to royal assent. So with those 2 readings that have already happened, what has happened to public engagement on this whole piece? So it really is quite concerning. And what stays in my head for us locally is when somebody posted on Facebook the other day about, does anybody know what's happening across from the Dalewood conservation area? With all the trucks that are there. So again, that's how long sometimes public engagement takes to sink in. I'm concerned about social equity and equality with this whole thing, because our conservation areas have always been a recreational area for community members. And we've always had our eye and our hope on equity and equality programming that we do throughout, as well as the educational programming that we do on an ongoing basis. I'm concerned about asset management. I like John Wilson's comments that he, when we first heard about this, what happens with asset management when a larger body takes over. It's very similar to when Thames Valley and Elgin County was taken over by Thames Valley. We lost a lot of our asset management, and we do have some big assets as well, excuse me, as well as our recreational areas that we need to go. You talked in your presentation about the urban and the rural divide. You're absolutely right. I think this is going to create an even bigger gulf between them. I also agree with the comments made about donations. But I also agree it's going to impact those donations, and I think the partnerships and the volunteers that we have taken years to navigate and mine and build will probably go overnight. The whole retention that we've been able to do. And to your point, was it about running deficits? If they run a deficit, it just automatically goes back to, so I would like to see if that's even in their mandate. Can they run a deficit? And if they do, who is responsible for it? Is it created equally amongst and passed out equally amongst all of the municipalities across the province? So again, 81 municipalities that will be affected. And out of the 7 members on that board for 81 municipalities, that's a very, very slim representation. So any local voice would be gone. So local matters with that local voice, I think, would be absolutely gone with a regional conservation authority that's so large. Those are your comments. Thank you.
Yes, thanks through the chair. I sat in on the seminar yesterday, and we had an opportunity to kind of debrief a little bit yesterday afternoon. But there were some things that really disturbed me on this one. For example, the representation on our boards. Right now, when we attend these meetings, we don't get to attend the meetings per se. We get mileage and that sort of thing. If they're going to have a bunch of provincial appointees and we don't even know what the criteria would be for those people, are they going to be paid?
Yeah.
Who's going to bear the cost of that?
course they're gonna.
Like, is that going to be down to an additional budget line in this the CA budget? And then the other thing that bothers me too is that we all do sit around here and we represent our municipalities as locally elected officials. Therefore, we have a say. And it also goes through to our municipalities. From a town center point of view, Kettle Creek has a very small footprint. But still, there's so much discussed around this table that is eye-opening and impactful, and yet we're going to lose that voice if they decide not to go to elected representatives sitting on the boards. And so who's going to be the voice for those municipalities? We don't even know the composition of this board, and as I said before, what will be the criteria for placing these people on board? I don't know what that. So there are a whole bunch of things, and I do agree really heartily about 2 things. One is the asset management, and the other one is the land acquisitions. Because people, if they're even considering it, they'll probably sit on the fence and see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Done?
Yeah, through the chair. Most of it's already been said, but we're basically going to get no local representation, but we still have to pay the bill. The province isn't going to be uploading the costs of it. They're just going to be taking 81 municipality having representation on boards to 0. And it's quite frankly a slap in the face. The other part of this, and it sort of goes along with asset management, but Kettle Creek runs a very tight ship. There's not a lot of fat to be cut off because it's already been cut off or was never there to start with, because it's a lean machine. If they're going to be taking all assets, that includes reserves. So do we just build the Dalewood Dam now and let her all rip, since we won't have any control of it in a little bit? Or I'm being a little facetious on that, but it's if it's hard to stomach all the diligence that you've done to keep everything sort of in check and keep the reserves okay. And now it's just gonna go away. And do other CAs have reserves? Or do they just run on nothing and hold their hands out for anything that comes along? And it's hard to stomach that the work and the diligence on keeping that budget tight is all just.
I was having a good day up to now, and then you talk.
Yeah. To the chair, well, I don't think there's any question when something's instituted, a new idea, there's gonna be pushback. They're expecting pushback. So we have to have the right answers. I think there was a lot of questions up there that needed to be answered. I think a united front is key here. 7 or 8 in your area, you should all get together, key these questions down, make sure you submit it as a united front. I think we have 3 London council members. There's 2 of us. We need to take it back to our municipality, to our board, and have a discussion and say, what's going on here? Maybe we can get some input from our councils to incorporate Stratford. Everybody needs to get involved and be united and find out what's going on here. I mean, there's a lot of good questions right here at the table that has been asked, but it affects all the municipalities in our area. Too bad. I think we need to be united. I don't think we can submit some here and some here and some here. Should be one presentation to the ministry, say, here's not reasons it's not going to work, and move from there, because they expect competition. There's no question. They give you a year to sort it out. And even then, I'm not so sure it'll be years before things can even if they want regionally. No representation from this area. We might not have representation from this area. One person might be the far end of the region.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with St. Thomas, nothing to do with Elgin or Southwold or Elgin. We'd have no say. So those things need to be pointed out. It's important to have say. So, but I think Laurie and I should take it back to council and ask for a discussion on it. And I think the gentleman from London should do the same thing, and all councils in this area should get on top of it and then be united with it. Don't let this slide now. The sooner the better, because it's like anything. Enough people show you reasons why you shouldn't do it. Hopefully someone will say, let's take a step back, have another look at it and get it done. So I was worried about staffing. I was worried about you and all this stuff in here, but what you're basically saying, nothing's going to change here. It's just that we're not going to have any say anywhere. They're going to tell you what to do. So anyway, just some thought.
Your point though, like we have a council meeting, I'll bring it up. Do we issue a letter to our conservation authorities, general managers saying, and how do you take it on to the other 7 then, Elizabeth? What is there, 8 in the eastern region? But I think it's going to be tough to get full unanimity across all the conservation, but in our eastern region, we could say, right?
We'd like to think.
Is that what we should do? Should we write you a letter saying we're against this and you pass it on somehow? But who do we write to? Is it the minister? Is it the MECP minister, or like, I don't know, like, we can talk about it, but who do we write to?
Yeah, no, yeah. Have to sort that out, but I'm just a sidebar. I'm thinking this may be a great time for you to come to council, give a short presentation, how this is going to affect St. Thomas municipalities. And I don't know, maybe they'd like you to come to London Council and say, here are the problems that we're recognizing, because they're representing Middlesex, the 3 gentlemen. Lori and I represent the city of St. Thomas. So it's a great time to come. Maybe they can put something together after your presentation, because for us to speak about it, we need the facts, we need the problems, we need the concerns, we need what needs to be discussed. Anyway, I don't know what you, Lori, think on it, but if I'm right or wrong, don't know. So
Or maybe we can let Jerry speak and then I can to next steps and who to write to.
All right.
Jerry?
Thank you and good morning, everyone. I did have 2 bigger picture kind of that view, and Lori already actually mentioned them, and asset management and deficit, who pays for it. I do agree with united response and working together with the others. Having said that, there could be some times that each CA has a different priority, and because there is going to be or different issue, different view. And I do think that sometimes when you work together, these regional, not regional ones, so we don't get confused with what we are using now, but these smaller ones have an issue that could be overlooked. So if we do take the united approach, very much for it, but on the other hand, I don't want to lose voices or opinions of some smaller ones that it doesn't affect the other ones. So I just want to mention that. Elizabeth, can you please, you mentioned funding first from unit ministry, but CA can charge the fees. Can you elaborate on that one for me, please?
Sure, Mr. Chair, to Jerry, if I understand the question, so the new agency, the new provincial agency will be able to apportion its costs to the new regional CAs. The response when we asked questions about that yesterday was the response back from the province was basically they don't have the answer to how that would be apportioned. Initially, the province will fund that new agency. And then they'll work out the details of how the CAs would be apportioned the costs later. But they predicted that there would be so much cost savings to the efficiencies of the new regional CAs that it wouldn't impact you in the future to fund that provincial agency.
So we are making money already.
Yes.
You betcha.
Elizabeth, no, thank you for that answer. Those were all my answers or concerns for now. Anyways, I know this, Elizabeth, I just want to thank you for two things. First of all, thank you for your immediate updates, which were really very, very beneficial. And I shared them, some of them within our city hall, and you were actually the first ones. You were the first one. Point one, point two, we had this little bit off, but I do have an audit committee that I will have to leave soon for. But Elizabeth, I want to thank you for all the updates you made to our implementation plan. And they were really very diligent and very positive. So thank you very much for that as well. We did have the update during our SPPC meeting. Thank you. And just in case I will be leaving, it will be because of audit committee. Thank you.
Jerry.
Great.
I guess, Jim and Frank, somebody already touched on it, but I think at the very least, slide deck that you've got should be sent out to the municipalities. I know you're a very busy person, but if you could attend with the slide deck would even be better, but at least, at the very least, the slide deck be sent out to municipalities. It's an excellent tool.
So I'm sorry, through the chair, further to that, we talked a little bit about that yesterday, and I do think that's a good thing because we have a meeting of council on Monday night and the agenda will be prepared, but I'm moving back to the office, so I could get some sort of notification that we would at least introduce this to council on Monday night. That would be helpful. And just one as a general comment, I think when you look at amalgamating all these CAs into one group, all we have to think about is municipal amalgamation, and I think that should end the story. There is no saving.
There is no what? What is that?
There's no saving.
Wow.
When we did municipal amalgamations,
It didn't.
I know in our particular case, because the West Missouri, which is the Thorndale area, they lost the revenue from the London airport. Therefore, when we amalgamated as Tim Center, we inherited their debt.
Yeah.
So I think those are some things that bigger isn't better necessarily. And I am worried about the costs. And they're going to be automatically proportioned to our member municipalities without much say. Okay, that's it.
So, Mr. Chair, I did promise we have thought into the future. It was important to have this discussion today. That have outlined possible next steps. One is developing a communication plan and some tools for you, but also for the public as well. So as I mentioned, I have been meeting with the neighboring CAs that are proposed within that Lake Erie region. We're trying to share as much information real time as possible. We have talked about doing some local meetings with CAOs and planning staff and possibly taking them through a very similar slide deck as to what I presented today. I would suggest, I have some draft motions that you might consider today. I think that's an easy way to get this out in front of your councils fairly rapidly. Because we can have that motion, I can do the letter up, we can get it out by the end of this week, because I know most of you have council sessions coming up the first week of December. We also wanted just board blessing on reaching out to some stakeholders and giving them some ideas of what you have talked about today, or some speaking points that they could be using on ARL postings, because we are getting some questions from stakeholders. What's the board's perspective? How can I be responding? How can I help? I also would like a motion today, if the board is willing, to get the executive committee power to act as necessary over the next little bit. There's a lot happening. I know there's more postings coming, and we need to be able to act nimbly to these things. And then we will bring back a final ER comments to the December meeting. And I can tell you there's a bunch of meetings that's happening between now and then, organized by Conservation Ontario, and continued discussions within the proposed Lake Erie region. And the GMs have all agreed that we want a united voice and as much as possible, a united front. So I'm not, no, I do have a motion, a sample motion for you. It's up on the screen. I apologize, it's a long one. It's a whereas one, but it is modeled on what Essex Region recently passed at their board meeting. But you do have an opportunity for some options here. So the bulk of the motion is just outlining, that whereas the ministry is proposing to reduce conservation authorities to 7 regional entities, as part of a broader restructuring that would create a new Ontario provincial agency to provide centralized oversight and direction. And whereas under this proposal, we would be grouped as part of the Lake Erie region, forming a single organization stretching from Windsor, London, Brantford, and north of Waterloo. And whereas the board acknowledges and supports the province's goal for improved efficiency, consistency, and fiscal responsibility in conservation delivery, but find that the proposed Lake Erie region configuration would create a geographically vast and administratively complex entity, dilute local accountability and municipal partnership, generate substantial transition costs, including human resource integration, governance restructuring, IT migration, and policy harmonization that would divert resources from the frontline service delivery, making it hard for applicants to obtain timely local advice, resolve issues, or expedite housing and infrastructure approvals that support the province's goals. And whereas KCC has always worked with its member municipalities, the province and partners to be fiscally responsible while ensuring the conservation, restoration, development, and management of natural resources within the Kettle Creek watershed, including modernizing its programs and services and aligning them with provincial guidance and neighboring CAs, and will continue to do so. That's the basis of it. Then you have 2 options. The first option, if you want, would be to resolve that you do not support the proposed Lake Erie Regional Conservation Authority boundary configuration, and that the board instead requests that the ministry provide the technical guidance and financial resources to implement modernization of approvals using the current CA framework, protecting local autonomy and watershed-based decision-making. So this is basically saying, modernize if you want, but do it in the existing framework. Or the second option would be to reduce the geographic consolidation. And this is basically what Essex passed, that top portion and this. KCA Board of Directors does not support the proposed Lake Erie Conservation Authority boundary, and the board instead requests that the ministry engage directly with affected municipalities and CAs to evaluate a reduced geographic scope for consolidation that better reflects established relationships and enhances cost-efficient delivery of integrated watershed management, grassroots connections, and local understanding.
That's perfect.
I, number one, think we should add FCM. You've got AMO Roma, you should add FCM, even though it's not,
Lot of stuff in there.
outside provincial distinction, FCM is now heavily involved with Green Municipal Fund. So you asked for a motion for the first one to provide the executive committee with. I will move that.
Okay. Second.
They had stand up, go to stand up, we.
Put on their
It's up to you, but if you've got a motion on the floor,
Okay.
do you want to?
Do we want to talk about it or we can vote on
And
it?
this is that the executive have power to act on this topic in between board meetings.
Okay, so just a question, and we have the environmental registry, like you can express your opinions till December 22nd, but it has nothing to do with the structure of what they're posing. It is how do you make it better work or blah, blah, blah. So the other thing is we're jumping that and we want to say this is not a good idea. Is Conservation Ontario, have you heard of, are they coming on with something? Like, are they studying it or they're gonna put in?
They have a council meeting tomorrow, we're
Okay.
having that discussion.
So I presume AMO will come, they're the big ones, AMO, I don't know about FCM because FCM is federal, right? And we're the only province with conservation authority.
Correct.
So that's another, the others, I don't know whether they're gonna pick it up or not, but I would expect they would go in with supporting what we're saying. But I never got the impression that, does the government listen to it? Because AMO has come out with a lot of stuff and they just steamrolled them. Okay, I'll stop there.
But I think there's value though, Frank, in getting these on our consent agendas at least.
Yeah, like,
Because then they can be passed through,
mhm,
whether it's 444 municipalities or it's 317, doesn't really matter.
is the city of Toronto in AMO now? Did they join?
They
No,
were,
they're not, or yes, I thought they
they
did.
were being brought in.
All right. So,
Very strict, this has no.
so this slide deck has not, we didn't get this in the closed agenda from what I can see. This is outside of it. Are you gonna forward this out to us as board members so that we can re-review all these materials?
So yes, I can forward this out as part of next steps. We also are proposing to do like a one pager for our member municipalities.
Okay,
But I am just conscious of timing and the motion that we have in front of you is a very easy way to get it on your agenda and get it out this week. But we'll also be working on that one pager to get out to you as well. So you can have that as you have these discussions at council.
okay.
That's good. Sam?
FCM does.
Yes, I need to leave the meeting in about 5 minutes as well. I support this motion. I support empowering the executive to take other actions. I don't think this motion has been put on the floor yet, so I'd like to move it.
Okay. Thanks, Phil.
And I really would like to move on.
Thank you, Sam. Just to be clear, which motion on the screen are you proposing? Are you reduce geographic consolidation or?
Along both of them. And I think that you could just include in the long motion, and finally, the executive be empowered to, anyway, I support both of them. I think it's important for us to send out the long motion as soon as possible.
Can we
And I
just
move it.
we vote on the executive committee?
Yep.
and then figure out-
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
So
No. Oh,
I
sorry.
gotta do Lori Baldwin, Sam.
Yes.
Frank Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pridle,
Yes.
Strybosh,
Yes.
Purcell,
Yes,
Wilson.
Yes.
And Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes. So that motion was the executive committee. Now I'm asking for the will of the board, if you want to go with a reduced geographic consolidation or modernizing an existing framework. What I'm hearing is probably the reduced geographic consolidation.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Okay,
Just one thought, Elizabeth, is like, we've always done what was asked of us, like as far as the flood mapping and
The meeting.
the permitting timelines and that. Is that something that we could add into that, like, on the last paragraph of the first page, you kind of spoke to some stuff. But I think it's important to kind of let whoever reads this, we've met all the criteria and exceeded it in most cases. I'm just wondering, is there value in adding in that, you know, as the province has come up with new things, you have managed that within house and exceeded those expectations. Is there value in saying, you know, we've done our part and worked with you guys, like everything you brought forward, and then up with an ask?
So, Mr. Chair, just for expediency and transparency, I think the motion as is speaks to that, but in the letter that I include the motion in, I can certainly add in those aspects.
Okay.
Of it, just with.
If you see value.
Yeah. So on this motion here, we've read the preamble and then the reduced geography consolidation.
Moved.
Elizabeth, sorry, I had my hand up. Sorry about that. Elizabeth, through the chair, Elizabeth, can you read this motion again, please?
No, it's so long.
No. Sorry, no, just the size has to do with the size.
Okay, so the preamble and then therefore be it resolved. Case State Board of Directors does not support the proposed Lake Erie Region Conservation Authority boundary configuration outlined in the ARR notice 02-1257, and the board instead requests that the ministry engage directly with affected municipalities and conservation authorities to evaluate a reduced geographic scope for consolidation that better reflects established relationships and enhances cost-efficient delivery of integrated watershed management, grassroots connections, and local understanding. And finally, that this resolution be forwarded to the MECP, local members of parliament, AMO, Roma, FCM, and all municipalities and CAs within the proposed Lake Erie Regional CA and Conservation Ontario.
There you go.
I moved this before.
Yeah, I moved this before. Okay.
Second is.
Yeah.
Seconders, Jim?
Okay, Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Fribble.
Yes.
Drybosh.
Yes.
Rousseau.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
And Noble.
Yes.
And I'm also acknowledging at 11:30 that Jim or Jerry and Sam have to leave. Is that correct?
Sam said.
Yes, for different reasons, but that's correct.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Just a comment, while Elizabeth, you have to do something first, but I often thought that based on, you know, just a general comment, the amount of minimal funding we get from the province, why didn't they buy software licenses and sub-license it to every conservation authority to standardize mapping and all that stuff, right? They could do that.
That would make sense.
Yeah, but that's what I often, you know,
Solution.
I go, why don't they do that? Pass out the tools and pay for them. And this is not required. That's all.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just before we leave this topic, the final thing is, staff have been working on a couple of public engagement posts, and I just want to make you aware of it and that you agree with this type of tactic as well as we move forward. So again, just picking up on local matters, going back to key points that we do well locally, and then you care about that, then go to this ERO posting and make your voice known. So it's things like at Kettle Creek, our work is shaped by the needs of our watershed community, your priorities, your landscape, your local environment. The province of Ontario is proposing to consolidate KCCA into a Lake Erie region, grouping 8 CAs across 81 municipalities. This is a major shift. Have your say. If you value local, have your say. And so we've developed different ones like that, including one on permitting. So we're meeting our permitting timelines and having face-to-face conversations with people. If that matters to you, comment on the ARO. Okay.
Just one comment, maybe it looks great, but maybe a few more numbers, like the square kilometers that Kettle Creek is now and what the new proposed one will be It's massive, and also the population density, the differences between the two. I think are like numbers speak volumes, right?
Yeah.
They see the numbers, they go, oh.
As long as the board that we have board support, that this is the type of communication you'd like to see out there. That staff will put those together and get it out.
Yeah, I think we need it. Like when I talk to people, all they know is they've read some articles in the newspaper and what's going on.
Right.
And I go, well, more later.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm fine with just the direction and the,
hey, you got it. That was cool.
Oh, wow.
Did you hear that? Doug Ford will not.
Management agreement.
this agreement was brought to you forward back in the summer. We wanted to update this agreement. Central Elgin has reviewed it, and instead of having this come back every 5 years, what they've asked for is an indefinite proposal or amendment moving forward. So either party here too may terminate this agreement for any reason whatsoever upon 180 days notice, and that the indemnification provision of the original agreement would indefinitely survive any termination of the agreement. So it's just a way we've come up with administratively. It's not going to fall off the books again. We agree with it. It was, so I'm just bringing it back with that knowledge that Todd and I would execute that agreement based on this request from Central Elgin. So I'm just asking for a motion that the amendment to the Belmont Union Conservation Area Land Management Agreement be accepted as presented.
Get moved. Grant, second.
Do you need a seconder? Or you got it? You got it. Okay. Yeah.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Spurs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Pridle. Sorry. Drybosh.
I think Sam was.
He said yes.
Oh,
He said yes.
oh, sorry.
His head's going up and.
Trusseau has.
Yeah, I said yes, but I guess I didn't stay off mute.
Wilson.
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Do that.
Yes. Proposed fee increase.
So I'm gonna take this, but the field staff and Jessica are available to comment as well. Annually, staff evaluate the fee schedules and make recommendations to the board. As part of that, we look at comparisons of neighboring CAs as well as our increasing fees as well. There's no increases proposed to section 28 regulation fees. As you recall, they've been frozen by the province, and that still is in effect. We are proposing modest increases to service areas based on our comparisons. So the conservation area fees is probably the most where you're going to see some changes. We have done a comparison amongst our competitors that we compare every year, which tend to be our neighboring CAs, and we are suggesting some increases basically to bring us up to the 2025 average of those comparators. So I still think we're being very competitive, and actually a year behind in our analysis. In terms of our seasonal campers, we're looking at a $50 increase there. Dalewood 50 amp sites would remain the same. There was a small administrative error that we need to correct there, in that the base rate was not increased when it should have been. So it's created a disparity between Lake Whitaker 15 amps and 15 amps at Dalewood. So Dalewoods would remain stagnant until we can bring Lake Whitaker up to the same level as Dalewood. Those,
So while you're doing that, Elizabeth, we're trying to mitigate these increases. I see like our municipality is going to be 2%. You're doing very little as well, right? Trying to cover what, inflation? Generally speaking.
for these increases, basically we look at our increases to like minimum wage,
Okay,
dumping fees and things like that. But in terms of setting the actual value, we did the comparison and are just bringing them to the average of the other competitors.
Okay. Question over here.
So, yeah, through the chair, you've done your homework on this, you compared the very minimal increases, so I would support it.
Right. Opposed? Senator Frank?
Where does it all end? Everything's going up. The wheels are gonna fall.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes,
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Everybody's just gonna-
Stridewash.
Yes.
Wilson
Yes.
and Noble,
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Seasonal camper application.
So again, very minimal changes to the seasonal camper application. They're mainly on housekeeping. Of course, the fee schedule will be now updated to reflect the increases. We did add a trailer section. They've always been required to have licensed and insurance on it. We're just asking for some information on the make, model, year, and length of the trailer in the actual application. There's an update to section 2 in terms of personal information to provide a statement outlining the permit holder's responsibility. And administrative staff have asked for an earlier deadline, a slightly earlier deadline for the payment schedule, moving it from February 25th to March 1st. There's just an administrative headache when the payments are due March 1st. It doesn't always end nicely on the month, and we have these payments carrying over. So by increasing it to February 25th, it just makes that administrative work a lot nicer. So there's that one, and then we did update the refunds policy this year as well. Again, in comparing it to other CAs and as well as the province, we've basically updated it to better reflect the standards across the province. And there is a change in terms of basically refunding less when people are canceling less than 24 hours or upon or after arrival.
Through the chair to Elizabeth, so you're going back a slide to where you're asking for. And maybe one more slide, where you're asking for the trailer registration, that sort of thing. I know a lot of campgrounds are going to, they have a minimum age requirement as well. Basically for safety reasons, these trailers don't travel well and they aren't built like a house for by a long shot. Has staff ever considered that? The propane is the biggest fear that something's gonna happen some night. It could affect the coach too.
Mr. Chair, to grant, I know it's come up before, we are aware that other CAs are offering that or doing that. We found since we haven't let the owners store their trailers on the site in order to qualify for insurance and that type of thing, the insurance company is assuming that risk and checking up on it. So we haven't felt like we had to do like a minimum year if they were only going to accept trailers of this age category. I don't know if Rob or Mike want to add anything to that answer.
So another thing, that comment that since we covered the trailer stores, that just kind of keep each of those trailers is a little bit higher than seen in the past. Still.
Right.
Yeah, so yes, it's quite a bit second.
Thank you.
Yep.
just a quick question. When people rent campsites, can they park a vehicle on it? It's a two-part question. Can they park a vehicle on the campsite? And I noticed you can get an additional pass for a second vehicle. It has to be in the parking lot or on site.
Generally speaking, there's room generally for 2 vehicles on the campsite. If you're bringing a third one in, then yes, you would have to park in park.
So you allow two vehicles in it. So if you have 10 parked in a row, they could all have 2 vehicles?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
So we are looking for a motion to accept those changes to the seasonal application and further that the cancellation and refund policy be approved as amended.
Frank. Grant.
Baldwin Sands,
Yes.
Burrs,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Stribosh,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
no votes, yes, and that motion passes.
First draft budget and municipal appointment.
Yes, so according to our budget timeline, we're presenting today the first draft budget. This isn't the first time, of course, members, we've had discussions about the budget before, and it's in keeping with our 4-year budget plan. But we do have to get it out to our member municipalities for consideration. And we would bring back any changes to the December meeting and then look for the municipal portion vote on January 21st, and then the final budget approval in February. So cost saving measures remain the same. We've got 40% of staff wages are supported using self-generated funding and campground revenue. A portion of those revenues are also invested in capital asset management. We have a strategic use of our operational reserves, and we continue to invest in our floodplain mapping. And I wanted to point out the open source software adoption that we've been doing saves over $10,000 annually for us. The 2026 municipal apportionment is a 4% increase, or roughly $50,000 over the 2025 levels. And that is all explained to you in the apportionment table that's included in that package. So you can see that a 4% for Central Elgin basically means about a $4,500 increase. And some municipalities such as Malahide, it's under $300 increase for them, for a total of 50,000 total. In terms of our revenue sources basically remain the same. We really try to stay under that 40% municipal, and we're generating about 50% ourselves. Where our expenses are going, the bulk of it goes into our core mandated programs and services and natural hazard and watershed management. And the other big expenses are campground and recreation at 33%. In terms of specific 2026 initiatives, we'll see a lot of movement in the numbers. $96,000 increase in wages and benefits. We are increasing our campground revenue as a result of the fee increases, but more importantly, with the new revenue generated from the new campsites. Our strategic uses of our reserves include all our properties fall under MINTIP and CTIP. Which gives us reduced tax rates, but every 10 years, I believe it is, we have to do a full review of those lands. And so we'd be undertaking those this year using reserve funds to cover off that evaluation of $15,000. I have put in $40,000 to do a comprehensive planning and regulation policy review and bring those up to standards. And I've put some money in the budget from reserves to hire consultants for public consultation and technical advice if needed. And another $127,000 it will be used to support wages and operational costs. Currently, the budget has $192,000 in capital expenditures for 2026. But a full report on capital expenditures and a refinement of those capital expenditures will be brought to the December meeting. So right now, I'm asking that the first draft 2026 draft budget be approved for consultation purposes and circulated to member municipalities and posted to KCCA's website.
I think do the moving of that, but I do have a couple of questions and requests to be reminded. How many new full service sites are we recommending? Can you share that number with me again?
Mr. Chair, Lori, it's 8.
Thank you. And moving forward, there is money left for more possible log cabin sites. Can we emphasize that as well? So I know that number of 8 wasn't in there, but if we can put 8 in there and then talk about how the log cabins have increased our revenue and where we're proposing to go for that as well. Because those are pieces of information we can take back to our members of council and say, this is what we're doing. Thank you. So moved.
Grant?
Before you go, just a couple of thoughts. Back in the pie chart, notice the 2% that the province gives us.
Let's say very generous.
I wanted to highlight the 2% that the province generously gives us. The other thought are reserves, and should we be using some of our reserves instead of increasing our 4%? Given the fact that a year from now,
Reserves might be taken away.
Well, we still have time to act on it, don't we? We have to see where this protest movement goes.
just throwing it out there.
Good point.
It's better to do it earlier than later.
Well,
If we're going to do it, what's it, sorry, Chair, how much money do we have in for reserves? What is our reserve? If you don't have everything.
I don't have an interest,
That's fine.
but I can provide that information for you. I think, I know that that's probably going to be a question that comes up, at member municipalities, because we're basically going out with our budget at the same time we're going out with consolidation. The perspective of that isn't always great. I would say we're the lowest of, the CAs that are going out right now with their budgets. I think it's really close to cost of living or inflation right now. It's really tight. And I think we can certainly look at reserves, but, I'd like to have a further discussion about that before we just fill our budget.
Depends what you're talking. If you're talking 100,000, I wouldn't be concerned. If you're talking 1 million, I'd be concerned. That's the problem with reserves.
I just thought we should talk about it at some point.
Mhm.
I think we can talk about it. I'm not prepared to talk about it right now.
Fair enough.
Perfect.
good answer.
All right. Ready to call the vote?
Sorry, problems in. First.
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Strybosh,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
and Noble.
Yes.
And that-
meeting dates.
Like the pace of.
Meeting dates.
Mr. Chair, these are our typical meeting dates. I just note again that the January meeting, I would prefer if it is in person, it makes the election of officers much easier. So I'll relay that to our London reps as well as everyone. Otherwise, things are basically the third Wednesday of every month, except March. We've pushed it back because of the March break. No meeting in July and to be determined in August. Otherwise, it's like other years.
If you moved, or is this for information?
I would like it moved.
Also moved.
Right.
Yeah.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
First.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Drybosh.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
December office closure.
So the December office closure, as you recall, we're replacing some carpeting in the building. We always close the office it's built into our personnel policy now from the 24th to the 2nd. The carpenters would like to come in right in around that time period. They're scheduled in. What I'm proposing is that we close the administrative building to the public from 4:30 on December 19th, which is a Friday, to January 5th for the Christmas shutdown and to accommodate the office upgrades. So staff would continue to work remotely, but public would not be allowed.
That's good. That's fine.
Okay.
Right. Secretary. Chair.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yeah.
Drybosh.
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
and Noble,
Yes,
and that motion passes.
Make a comment? I just appreciate that this is coming at least 3 weeks ahead of the December 19th date, rather than something that's been done last minute. I've noticed other organizations where they have a slow and letting the public know. So very much appreciate this length of notice.
thank you.
Well, through the chair, the planning report was included in your board package. I'm here for questions, or otherwise recommended be received.
Good.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Mover and seconder?
Yeah, hop in there.
Grant?
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Spurs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Frybosh.
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
and Noble,
Yes,
and that motion passes.
okay. We need to move to my close.
Yes, please, and just, sorry, before we do go into close. I would like to add a legal matter to the closed session.
Everybody's good with that?
That's cool.
Grant moves.
Second, yeah, okay.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Spurs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Strybosh.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
And Noble,
Yes,
and that motion passes.